When I do go up to BRC's office, can't help but stop and stare when I enter the building. With the lunch hour closing, employees should have been back already, if they still aren't filtering through the doors. I get that it's a Saturday, and that people probably feel tired and lazy to be working on a weekend. But they're still on the clock, and not bumming about, wasting company time on extended lunch breaks and cigarette sessions. The office is spacious, as it is with these big corporations. Each person is given their little space of what's usually a 2x2 meter cubicle. There's a lot more empty chairs than there are actual people working at their desks. Reminds me far too much of my last day at Poriskova Projects during the massive layoffs due to the Irish economic crisis. But it isn't just that, though. Everything is as quiet as a grave. It's as if these people are merely ghosts. Speaking of ghosts, Santos comes in through the door, looking as if she's just seen one. She looks at me, wide-eyed, like a deer caught in the headlights, ready to bolt at any moment. I'd ask, out of concern, but I feel it's not my position to do so. What if it's something personal? I'd simply be overstepping my boundaries. Really, it's none of my business.
I presume that Miss Cooper told you why I'm here, Miss Santos?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just got back from lunch, you know? But it won't take too long, don't worry.
Of course it won't. This whole project has established itself to be a matter done in haste. I do hope it doesn't mean that people are being careless in their duties.
She flinches and looks like she doesn't quite know how to respond to that. Thankfully, instead of opening her mouth, she leads the way towards her station and goes to fetch the floor plans. It won't take too long, as she said, but it does take a bit. Time spent to compose herself, most likely.
You know, we usually just email these things.
I prefer the real thing.
Not that you would know. You probably have your nose stuck in front of a smartphone when you're not working, and even when you should be working, playing those mindless, addictive games. I definitely wish Chris would stop playing that Bat-Cat thingy during work hours, too.
I know what you mean. Digital painting is nice, but nothing beats the smell of real paint. Not that I go and smell paint like a crazy person, but, you know, the real thing is different.
Yes, nothing is quite like the real thing.
Checking out the floor plans, I see that I'll have a lot going for me. Now I know how Ray felt when he found the Central Park West building floor plans from that one movie. Let's see. Okay, so this is the ground floor. It's the porch, foyer, dining hall, kitchen, the gallery, quarters, I think that's what it says. Hall, the ballroom. Ballroom comes from here, that's how you enter. The parlor. Bathrooms. I think that's what it said. Music room. Hall. Basement. Garden. Up. You got the balconies. Hallway. Conference room. Shower room? Can't read that. Quarters. Master's bedroom. Balcony. Hallway. Theater. Study room, bedroom, balcony. Interesting. So there's 1, 2.
And the attic.
This is where like the servants would sleep because I think those are beds.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 bedrooms? Am I looking at this right?
I think so.
Or I guess 4 if you want to count these attic rooms.
Oh, you remember one of the rooms upstairs was going to be for their future baby.
Well, it would probably be this or something. This is why I became an architect in the first place. Jacobean style at its finest. It's a thing of beauty. Look at these gorgeous rooms, the delicate harmony between empty spaces. And speaking of empty spaces, there's something rather odd about these ones.
I feel a bit silly saying it out loud because I've never lived in a big house, let alone a mansion. But during the tour, I had the distinct impression that the rooms were bigger. Maybe the scale is wrong? It's not much of a problem, and it is an old house.
Oh gosh, I dare you. There had been little details here and there that I would have liked to address during the open house, too. But it was all forgotten in the wake of Miss Santos's incident and the trouble with ownership. The wine cellar is going to be a problem. I shudder to think what sort of repairs they did to the place. There might have been things that were swept under the rug, pushed to the dark corner of the rooms and hidden away in barrels. Water damage could have been covered up. There had been floods due to heavy rains in West England just last year, after all. And if there's any sort of damage to the house's foundation, that's going to be a lot of work. I was not able to look at the attic as well. For all I know, a whole family of vermin could have made their nests in there. Working with pest control is always the worst. The sheer size of this place is staggering, even if I did just say it was a lot smaller than I thought. I might just be biting off more than I can chew, but who doesn't like a good challenge? First things first, I'll have to...
So, do you want a coffee? The one from the staff room is pretty decent.
There's really no need. I'm sure you have rules against it.
Rules against bringing someone coffee? That's ridiculous, and even if there were regulations against it, nobody's really here to tell Sir John. I've already brought 2 mugs, and I'm not going to drink them on my own. Come on.
I have to stamp down my annoyance at being distracted. Seeing the girl, the young woman, though, it looks like she has a lot on her mind. If babbling is her way of dealing with stray thoughts, I'm not really the one she should be babbling to. How should I respond?
You have something to say?
I give her time to speak up. But when she just stares at me, I clear my throat. It is maxed out. How about that?
Yes? You have something to say?
As embarrassment creeps up on her face, I snatch one of the coffees from her and take a sip. Too hot.
Just thinking and speaking off the record, it must be fun what you do. You go to people's houses and you make them, well, pretty. You're sharing your art with them.
It's a little bit more complex than that. But if you put it that way, it is fun. I wouldn't have done it for 7 years if it wasn't a little bit fun, I guess.
These big clients always have paintings in their homes. Do you have a supplier for art pieces?
I didn't expect to hear such a question from her, seeing how well she handled herself yesterday. I didn't doubt then why she was assigned to an important sale like the Ermengarde mansion, despite the little accident she had. Now, she just looks too young, too nervous, and unsure of herself. Although her enthusiasm must make up for that in spades. In fact, I wouldn't have believed it if she had introduced herself the way she is at the moment. Why, watching her now, she actually looks like she should still be in college. Acts a bit like it, too, when I think about it. I thought she was a teen, slumming it out in the mansion when I first saw her there, lying on the ground. Surprise, surprise, she turned out to be one of the estate agents handling the property.
The clients usually support artists of their own choice. If they don't, I'm always happy to refer those that I know.
That's cool.
They're very picky. I don't think a hobbyist will have an easy time getting their work sold.
Hey, I'll have you know I was a student of the fine arts.
And yet, here you are, selling property. Maybe you weren't a very fine student of the arts.
Ouch. Jeez. Maybe I took that a bit too far. She bites her cheek, and it looks like she's barely holding herself back.
It's not like I had a choice.
She mutters it under her breath. I barely even hear it. But the hurt is there. And it makes one wonder what brought it on. Although it is understandable if her reason's what I think it is, very few people make it big in the art world. I can see why she'd be upset about it with that enthusiasm. I didn't have a choice when I left Ireland. It was that or years of unemployment. The recession and the toll it took in the construction industry was out of anyone's control. I don't know what choice she wasn't able to make, whether it was about her being at art school or something else. But the world isn't a fair place. And the sooner she accepts it, the better. Still, with that forlorn look on her face, I can't help but sigh. The girl reminds me far too much of myself when I was younger.
Well, if you're thinking of commissioning your paintings, I'll have to see your work first.
Oh, it's not... I didn't mean it like that. I don't have any paintings.
Really? You sounded a lot like you still did art or want to. Now I'm starting to worry that you might dislike the smell of paint.
I'm not a paint huffer, sheesh. I just mean I don't make much anymore. I don't really have the time for it. The tools and materials aren't exactly cheap either.
Everything has a price. It sounds like you're making excuses for something you're presumably passionate about. If you really want to practice art, a little out of your wallet isn't much.
It's not that simple.
It's not? Life's simple. People just like to make it complex. Speaking off the record, I have some advice for you, kid. Either go for what you want, or stop thinking about it when you have something else. That is unless you enjoy making yourself miserable, then by all means.
You know, if you wanted to look at the floor plans without me bothering you, you could have just said so.
Would you have left me alone?
We'll never know now, will we?
The strained air settles in the room afterwards. It doesn't help that she doesn't immediately leave, as she has said, lingering awkwardly by the door with that downcast expression.
I don't remember this part.
It's clear there's more she means to say, perhaps even to defend herself and her choices in life. What do you mean you don't remember this part?
With her,
What do you mean?
when you're Isabel.
Yeah, it skips this part because it's Marianne's deal.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that you don't see that you will see in other people's stories. Or is she expecting me to dish out more of that advice? It's an awkward affair, and I choose to hightail it out of the realty office as quick as I can. Though I am able to keep myself professional at all times, does not mean I like it. And seeing that most of the day has already gone by before I realized it, I choose to head back to my flat instead. Despite today being a Saturday. No fun, but at least this way I can definitely avoid another unpleasant encounter. Considering how much I'll be seeing whiskey in the near foreseeable future, I have a feeling I'll need all the rest the weekend can give me. For the first time in a long while, excited as I am to work on the mansion, I cannot wait to be over and done with this project. Monday couldn't come any sooner. After taking the floor plans from Miss Santos the day before last, I spent most of my Sunday drawing up plans and calling in my suppliers. Although no design choices have been made yet, I'm quite sure that they'd want high-end appliances, the most expensive materials, and the most pretentious everything. They usually did, these rich types. Based from experience, at least. Given how badly this whole thing started, wouldn't hurt to be prepared. I have to check myself. Make sure I'm not playing with my glove, as one of the other building attendants takes the elevator up with me. It makes me self-conscious when the woman's eyes go over me, and I'm sure she was going to point out some perceived flaw in my physical appearance. But I'm saved from being paranoid when they went off a few floors later. Still, the ride up to my floor is nerve-wracking. The Wrights lived at the very top, the penthouse, the creme de la creme when it comes to condominium and urban living. Just getting access to the place is an ordeal of its own. I had to jump so many hoops, so many security checks, just to secure a key card. Not only because of building management, but because of the Wrights' personal security. It sometimes felt like I'm being interrogated for a crime, and not visiting a client at their home. Even when their personal assistant called in to help out and verify my presence, the process is aggravated rather than hastened. Speaking of the devil, the elevator door opens, and I am greeted by none other than Whiskey's not-so-little lackey.
I do apologize if I kept Mr. and Mrs. Wright waiting. But I'm here now, and I'm ready, so if I may, where are they?
They've just woken up, but they should be down soon. I'm surprised to see you made it through security, and only 5 minutes late.
You said I'd be through security soon, and it took half an hour. Define soon in this context.
I'd make myself comfortable if I were you. I'm going to go and put the kettle on.
About the tea, I don't want to intrude or anything.
The sir does not like being woken up by the whistling. But who am I to deny tea to a guest?
He shows me to the couch before drifting off towards the kitchen, quietly pulling out a teapot, cups, and all sorts of other things in preparation for tea. I ignore the animosity towards his employer that his words implied. I wouldn't be too surprised if Whiskey's own people don't like him. Accepting the quiet and isolation instead, I brace myself for what's to come. In this case, soon apparently means more than 5 minutes, or even 10. I sit in their living room, just waiting. And when the kettle starts whistling and the tea has been served, I continue to wait. At least the silence is relaxing. But then there's a crash. I nearly spill tea all over my lap in surprise, and I look up, expecting security to come running. Even the man at the kitchen counter continues to fix breakfast like he heard nothing. I don't want to speak up about it because he looks far too absorbed in his cooking, and I don't want to be the cause of burnt food or worse. However, there's something in me that just wants to figure out what that was, although I am not normally this nosy.
Wait, what's the situation?
There was a noise. What should I do then? Check it out or continue waiting?
Wait.
I have no business with it. These rich people usually value their privacy above all else, after all. Unless, of course, they're posting pictures on social media, bragging about what good people they are for allowing themselves to be interviewed for some magazine. Then again, the whole reason I'm in this mess is because I don't give two craps about what goes on with people like them. And I'm not going to get caught snooping about and be accused of some imagined wrongdoing. I'm not going to be some busybody, detective wannabe, and run off to investigate. Whatever that was. It's probably just something mundane anyway, like a lamp falling over. I'm just going to sit here and wait for Mrs. Wright. With my tea. In complete silence.
Could I at least put the telly on?
I don't really expect him to answer. If he hadn't heard the crash, I doubt he would have heard
As long as you don't watch some silly soap opera, the LBC News would be fine. The William Walker Show is on too if you prefer that. Not that I watch it, but my husband does. The remote is under the coffee table.
Oh, sure. Maybe I'll be lucky and catch the doc on. I heard they're having reruns of the classics, and I want to see the second meet sixth in Spain. If not, just the news then. Thank you. I'll let you get on with your cooking now.
Did you just ignore the crash a while ago, then? Whatever. Fetching the remote, I turn the TV on in hopes of filling the silence. Trying to, anyway, because the thing won't turn on. And doesn't that make the silence more awkward, or what? I know, I might not be the best with tech, but I'm sure I can work a simple television remote.
The batteries must be dead.
There's blood everywhere. Help me, it says in red. I look at my hands and find them clean, yet I can see my grisly reflection gaping back at me. And though there is nothing staining my skin, I can feel the sticky and warm feeling of blood dripping down my cheeks. I should be worried. Instead, I feel my attention drawn towards her. Her beautiful blonde hair. Her soft lips with skin so fair and swaying hips. I want nothing more than to hold her, plant my lips on her neck, and to run my fingers through her hair. She laughs and she smiles when she looks at me. But where are her eyes? Temptation is gone in an instant, and I recoil, horrified at this reflection I am seeing, only to back into something, or rather someone. Mrs. Wright stands there, twirling a lock of her blonde hair, a soft smile on her lips, and a hand on her hip. I almost back away, but I ground and remind myself that this is my client. And whatever I just saw, well, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to say that perhaps I'm going a bit daft. It would be preferable, of course, to think it was all a trick of the light, or the makings of an overactive imagination.
Good morning, Mrs. Wright. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Have you been standing there long?
No, I just came down and saw you were having a hard time with the telly. We must have forgotten to change the batteries. Are you all right, dear? You're looking a bit pale. Haven't you had breakfast yet?
No, I'm fine. I had breakfast already, Mrs. Wright. I just need...
Well then, you mustn't have had enough breakfast. I'm all for a good diet, but that's the most important meal of the day. Johans is cooking up pancakes. Pancakes will make anyone feel better, he always says. We can sit down and tuck in. You'll feel right as rain once we get some fluffy, syrupy goodness in you. And are you sure you're fine, Marianne? You're shaking.
Looking down at my hands, I can see them trembling. Really, just because she looks so much like her, I'm becoming a dang train wreck. I've been seeing her in my dreams and hearing her voice ever since I met Mrs. Wright at the mansion. With so many blondes in the world, what was different with her? What was different this time?
So you're not feeling well.
I'm starting to go mad, I am. But there's work to be done, and the clock isn't going to stop ticking while I go about having a breakdown. I should go to the loo, splash water on my face, and snap out of it. At least until the end of the day, if I can just last that long.
I think I just need to excuse myself for a minute, if that's all right.
What? No. What if you suddenly fall over or faint while you're all alone? You can just sit down right here and I'll go get you a glass of water.
Or would you like some beer? That's how you are nowadays now. Drowning everything in booze.
No, I don't want anything to drink. Just...
I must have said that forcefully, judging by the look on Mrs. Wright's face. But why does she care? It's not like we're friends. This is business. I'm either well enough to conduct it or not. Why would she pretend to be concerned when I am simply a means to an end? Just seeing Mrs. Wright reminds me too much of her. Maybe I'm starting to see her and hear her again when I shouldn't be. I've tried so hard to leave everything behind, to forget them and move on. But that small touch and her voice in my head have nearly set me off the edge. And in an instant, all of her memories come flooding back in.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to snap at you like that. Just give me some breathing room, please. Please, give me a moment.
She doesn't respond. And just before the situation gets any more complicated, Mr. Wright comes in.
Good morning, ladies. What a wonderful morning it is, that I wake up to such a beautiful sight. I do hope you two are getting along. I smell pancakes. I do hope you two are considering a diet just so I can have them all to myself.
Don't be a pig, Luke. You eat all of those and you might stop fitting into your tight suits.
What? I'm not a pig. You don't think I'm a pig, do you, Marianne?
With his saucy smile and playful wink, I can't help but think, you are a bit of a pig, Whiskey.
I don't know, Mr. Wright. I'm an interior designer, not a zoologist.
The only styles she must be familiar with are statement of works.
Well, don't be a bore. You two might not be in a rush, but I'm going to go ahead and feast.
If you dawdle too long, he'll hog all the syrup.
Rich people are so centric.
Come on then, we can discuss business over food.
There's no denying the clients when they invite me over to the table. Though it is too personal to share a meal in their home, it would be terribly rude to deny their invitation. Besides, the pancakes did look and smell heavenly. A bowl of clotted cream, fruits, syrups, jams, and other spreads are laid out next to them, making for a colorful arrangement. If this was a brunch with friends, I would have gladly helped myself to the whole lot. But as it is, I accepted just a few pieces of pancakes and topped it off with lemon and sugar.
You know, I was a tiny bit serious when I said I wanted a helipad.
And you're not serious about the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables?
Well, I do want those too, but I know you'll agree to those.
We're talking about interiors here, honey. You don't handle exterior designs and whatever handles those sorts of projects do you, Marianne?
I'm able, actually, and willing to take a project of that nature. I was an architect in Ireland before. Of course, that's another contract entirely. I also suggest we finish the house itself before working on any additions to the rest of the property. There won't be any problems about ownership this time, will there? Pardon if I'm crossing a line, but the acquisition was rather quick.
Oh, don't you worry. We've got everything sorted this time around. I've talked to Miss Cooper and Mr. John from BRC, as well as the old owners. Everything has been paid in full, and all we're waiting for is the paperwork from the land registry. They're letting us move in as soon as we please. It's not like they were living there in the first place.
That's good to hear. The problems that could arise from renovating another person's home would be... well, let's not dwell on it. First off, we'll want to know how you want the place to look. It's pretty furnished as is, but I understand if you want to modernize the whole thing.
Actually, I'd prefer to keep the place looking as it is, but at the same time, I want modern appliances. You worked on the Ludgate's Christchurch summer residence. I do remember there being an oven I thought was a simple drawer before. Make them look vintage, antique, blend in with the rest of the decor.
Customize appliances then. I can't find someone for that, and if you can't tell me what you specifically want, it'll hasten up the process. We're talking about electronic appliance manufacturers. If you have a preferred brand to work with.
Splendid! So, what is next on our agenda? All the other interior designers we've hired in the past do not have us this involved.
I stopped. What sort of half-baked designer did that? If I knew who they were, I would have words. This isn't the time or place for it, however. Instead, I use this brief pause to pull out the floor plans I brought with me.
We'll have to figure out what you want to do with the rooms. Here, we can have a quick run through.
What is that little room next to the master's bedroom?
Oh, as far as I could tell when I saw it, it's a second bedroom of sorts. Used, apparently, for the ladies-in-waiting who has served Lady Charlotte Ermengarde, which is strange, as that isn't the norm for these sorts of houses.
Well, we're not stuffing Johans in there. He won't fit. You don't suppose we could turn it into a walk-in closet and a dressing room?
I love fashion, but do we really need to turn an entire room into a walk-in closet, dear? We'll have large closets and a wardrobe in the bedroom already.
Says the one who takes 3/5 of our closet. Well, what do you suggest we do with it?
I thought a utility room of some sort would be nice. A craft room where I can do fun things. Or maybe a children's room might be nice. You know, for when Kylie comes over. Or if Rochelle visits once she's had a baby.
1, you are not inviting that witch. And 2, there's a whole mansion for Kylie to play in. We don't need a children's room, and you don't even do arts and crafts. I'd like to turn the guest's room and the study into my personal office, by the way, if you don't mind.
You can turn it into a personal office if I can have my utility room. It's just the one room of the many. I'm taking that room for myself, no matter what you say, dearie. So you might as well take this deal. The real problem is the theater. Whatever are we going to do with all that space?
Fine, we could turn it into our own personal cinema, I suppose. Might as well have it, if you plan on not having a telly in the parlor.
Yes, well, I don't want guests to be glued to the telly when they come over for a meal and some tea. By the looks of things, we can keep the rooms as what they are on the ground floor, though. The ballroom would be perfect for parties.
Do we really need a dining hall, though? I don't suppose we can't convert it into a garage.
What for? You can park your cars outside.
What about that room, right there, in the northwest corner?
That's sleeping quarters for the household help?
Oh, that is perfect! Johans will be glad if we have other staff members who stayed in. It'd be convenient so they don't have to make the trip from Luxbourne to the mansion when they're needed.
You'll definitely need a lot more people to maintain a property of this size.
The mansion is really a lot bigger than I thought. Look at all these rooms. I didn't even know there was a music room next to the parlor because of what happened.
There was a grand piano in there too, when we checked during the tour.
Did you hear that, Luke? Maybe you can take up playing the piano again. Oh, you should have seen him when we were younger, Marianne.
It's not like I was very good with the thing.
Oh, hush you. You were no Mozart, but I loved hearing you play nonetheless. He'd come over to my home and he'd play such fun tunes. He'd sing too and I'd dance and it was just...
Mr. Wright playing the piano. I can't imagine it. But the earnest way in which Mrs. Wright said so told otherwise.
Anyway, what do you think of these plans, Marianne?
Are we not even going to consider one of my requests? Not even just a closet or just a garage? Now, that isn't fair, is it? You're not the only one who's going to be living here.
I hardly see how that's unfair. I told you you're getting your office and your theater, the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables. That sounds fair, does it not, Marianne?
Well,
Compromise.
I really wish they didn't look at me like that. This is their decision to make. But if they want to ask for a professional's point of view, I'll be happy to give my 2 cents.
You can still have a garage.
See, Marianne agrees with me. Thank you.
But the structural integrity of the mansion might be at risk if we try to turn the dining hall or any of the rooms into a garage. Taking down one of the exterior walls might hit one of the support beams. And with a mansion that old, I'd rather not risk it, especially without closer inspection. There's always compromise, of course.
I suppose that's better than nothing. Better than flat out saying no.
Mrs. Wright does have a point. There's plenty of space for a garage outside of the mansion itself. If you'd like a covered parking space, we can arrange something on the grounds instead.
Oh yeah, let's look at the relationships. Hana didn't like that, but Luke liked it. That's 2 times now that we've been hit with negative.
Then we better go there. I want to see where we can build a garage.
Yes, no time like the present. You want a thorough inspection? Might as well do it now. We actually took another look at the property yesterday, though it was brief. But I'm sure you would want to see it yourself, to spot anything we might have missed.
It's not like I have much of a choice, do I?